listening to the AZ12 podcast. I am Mike Luke, joined by the GOAT, Brian Jeffries. Hello, Brian Jeffries.
Hello, Mike Luke. How's everything?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. First of all, we need to get a wellness check on you. The city is not happy with what we saw. We saw that. Are you okay? And what do we need to do to be able to basically avenge what happened?
Well, they took the stitches out yesterday, and they said I should be able to get around here probably in the next 3 or 4 days. So, no, actually, no damage done. So it happens so fast when those things occur that you don't even think about it. I was more worried about our equipment. Were we still on the air? And the water bottles kind of exploded, so all my stat sheets were wet, and somebody came along with a towel and dried everything off. And so that was more important than anything.
A true professional, being more worried about the equipment than anything else. Most people have been like, oh my gosh, this massive person is just falling into me. Brian says, nope, the equipment must be saved. We like that, Brian Jeffries.
Well, if you don't have equipment, you're not on the air. So that's...
I was going to say, yeah, you probably can't call in and do it live via that. That would be difficult. Brian, let me ask you this. Now, speaking of which, the environment, what do you think of these Big 12 environments so far? Well, I mean, you've got literally have a front row seat.
Yeah, it's been tremendous, Mike. It's everything that I was told it would be. I think with the exception of Stillwater, and granted that, team's not having its best year, and it was a bitter, cold night in Stillwater, so I can understand why the arena wasn't filled there. But everywhere, and they were the ones that were there were very enthusiastic. But everywhere we've gone, it's been, if it hasn't been a full house, it's been very close to it. The fans are engaged. It's difficult for visiting teams to come in. I think Baylor was probably the loudest, even though it's not the biggest, 7,500 seats. But the way they constructed that arena, and it's just over a year old, that it makes it very loud, and so. It's a tough play. That's why you see Big 12 teams playing so well at home. It's tough to beat them there because, A, they're good, and B, the environment, I think, really helps to the success.
I always get people that ask me, they're like, well, how is this different? I think this just gets you better for the for the NCAA tournament, because all of these games are big. All of them are big in that, and if you win, you just come away with a big, it's a win. A win is a win is a win is a win on these road trips. I make no apologies for anything, and you're 12-3 at the end of the day.
Well, and that's the bottom line. And I think that I would look at it this way, at least from the perspective of the Arizona team. I think it helps them play better because we went around the Pac-12, and even though Arizona would always draw usually the biggest crowds, there were still many nights when we went into Pac-12 arenas and there were 3,000 people that showed up. And that's, it doesn't get your juices going. And so I think the idea that you go into these packed arenas and you're playing really good teams, I think it helps both teams play better. And in a case like Arizona, where you've got a really good team, then on the road, I think it helps you excel in what you do. So you don't have a night off. I'll tell you what, and you take a look at what Arizona's got left here. Ames, Iowa, Lawrence, Kansas, and
right.
I mean, those are two of the maybe the two toughest places to go, and we haven't seen them yet.
You haven't even seen him yet. I mean, that's the point. Let's talk a little bit about Tommy Lloyd and the job that he's done with this team. And I think so many times people are so much a prisoner of the moment. You're 4-5. This team, this or that. This guy, and like I always say, it's okay to critique, but big picture, this dude really knows what he's doing. You don't win the amount of games. I mean, Brian, you've been around some legends. You don't win the amount of games that somebody like Tommy Lloyd does without having a really good idea of what you are doing as a head basketball coach.
Well, I think the thing that stands out to me the most, Mike, and I'll just narrow it down to this season, and that is that Mo Krivas was going to be a focal point of this team.
Right.
And then 8 games into the season, he goes down, with a broken bone in his foot, and he's out for the year. And that was right before the UCLA game, which they lost. And as you mentioned, their record sits there at 4-5. And then you're wondering, okay, what are they going to do? At least I'm thinking that. Certainly the coaches aren't. But I will give Tommy and his staff a lot of credit. They kind of retooled everything that they did. They know that they weren't going to have Mo. And even though Henri has played exceptionally well this season, he's not the same type of guy. He's more of a stretch 4 than he is a 5. And so they had to find some ways to redo what they had. And so they went to this 8-man rotation. And once they kind of settled into that. And then I know there's been a couple of changes along the way due to injuries, etc. But I think they really found a formula there with those 8 guys, and the 3
Right.
guys off the bench have just been tremendous this year. So, a lot of coaches may not have, been willing to do that, but you want to find a way to win, and so they've been able to, find that formula with those 8 guys, and when they're playing well, they're hard to beat.
Brian, have you ever been to Baggins before?
Many times.
All right, many times. Well, here's the thing. We want to help you out on this show. Baggins, they have partnered with us. Cody, if we can get that up there. Here's the deal with Baggins, Brian. You come in there and listen, you should have the GOAT special, so they should be giving it to you for free. But if they don't have the GOAT special, you can use code AZ12 for 15% off, Brian. Very, very good. Like I said, you can get, and they give you a chocolate chip cookie with everything, Brian.
Always.
It's amazing.
Yep.
Yes. Now, go in there, use code AZ12 for 15% off, and we will make your wallet heavier, Brian, by just by that 15% right there. That's our promise to you.
All right, Albuquerque turkey. That's all I have to say.
Albuquerque turkey. Oh, that is a very good one, by the way. Yeah. Yes, and if you're in the ritzy part up, they got 12 locations. If you're up in Scottsdale, you can go up there as well, Brian. Okay, now, Brian, have you ever had a dental implant before?
Not yet.
All right. Well, my mom had, and it cost her like $85,000. I mean, not quite that much, but it was close. So let's say that you don't want to have to pay what my mom did, or you don't want to have to go to Belize and you don't know what they're going to put in there. They're going to rip your tongue out or, something like that. Here's what you got to do. You go to Eris Dental, and guess what? They can give you the implant and the crown for $1997. Get it, Brian? What happened in 1997? Get it?
Yeah, I remember it fairly well.
Yeah. And guess what? It's called the Championship Special. There's a guy on the show flying in from Iowa to get this thing happen. They're coming from all over the Four Corners region, even though Iowa's not Four Corners. Brian, if you ever need an implant, let us know. We will get you set up there at Tucson Teeth and TucsonImplants.com. Eris Dental, my friends. Eris Dental.
All right.
Okay. Now, yeah. Tommy Lloyd's, let's talk about Henri Vesar. You brought up Henri Vesar. I'll be honest with you. I never saw Henri developing into this. Henry's a monster. Now, listen, there's going to be some ups and downs. Teams are game planning for him. I get it. He's still learning. But this is a guy that is a real problem for other teams on both sides of the court, Brian.
Well, I think for a couple things. First of all, that year he sat out really was to his benefit because, as you well know, his freshman year, he really didn't make much of an impact.
Right.
And then didn't play last year. And so he had a time to sit back and, I think, retool his body, first of all, and also just learn a lot more about college basketball, American college basketball, and it's benefited him greatly. I thought the best story he told me this year was that when he was 12 years old, that his coach made him a point guard. He was like a 6'1" point guard at the age of 12. And he said that really excelled his learning curve because, he had to handle the ball. And now you see, he can plant himself outside the 3-point line, and he's not afraid to put it on the floor and drive the ball. I think he has a much better understanding of the entire game because of some of his upbringing. And, the Arizona coaches have really made him into a more versatile player now. And they're not afraid to let him shoot threes because I think that, that's something he's going to get better and better at. But I just think his aggressiveness, Mike, has been the thing that has stood out the most. He fears no one right now. And, he's 7 feet tall. That helps. There's guys that might be a little wider than him, but he takes them all on. And I tell you what, he's, like I said, you've got that 8-man rotation, and he's one of those guys that comes off the bench that is extremely valuable.
Yeah, when you watch him too. Oh, by the way, Brian, did you know that we have an Estonian influence on this show? We get over 1,500 views monthly from Estonia.
Okay, well,
I mean, come on. I mean,
don't be surprised if there's more coming.
Yeah. I like that. That's called a tease. Hey, Brian, I was listening to you and Rhino the other day. You guys are both talking about some of the girth in the front court for Arizona. You guys have both quoted the girth. And when you said it, I was very, very happy. Tobe Awaka. This guy has been, I'll be honest, I don't think Murph will care. I was talking with Murph this offseason, and Murph said, this guy is going to be a problem. I'm telling you, I know people are like, oh, he only had 5 points and 5 rebounds. He says, this guy is going to be a problem. Murph was right. It's another guy that seems like he knows what he's talking about a little bit. Awaka's a monster.
He is, and there was one point a few weeks ago, Mike, and I can't recall. I think we were on the road somewhere, and Tommy was kind of getting on Tobe to, be stronger on the glass. And ever since then, maybe with one exception, I think maybe because of foul trouble, he's a guy that's giving you 8 rebounds or more a
Yeah.
game. And so he's extremely strong. He knows how to position himself for rebounds. I think his offensive glass work has improved greatly. And just like everybody on this team, if they want to keep winning, he needs to play at his best. And he's coming off a double-double at Baylor. And really, I thought did a marvelous job against a team that, didn't have a lot of size necessarily, but they had a couple of guys that they thought maybe matched up with Tobey, and he kind of controlled the paint. I thought that was very valuable.
Do you think it became personal for him, though, when he saw Amir jump into the press row?
No, I doubt that very much. I don't know if he even noticed, but
that might be a question to ask him next time.
Okay,
I mean, it got personal. I mean, sometimes things affect you a little bit differently.
I will double check with him before the game on Saturday to see if that was an inspiration for him.
Okay. Now Carter Bryant, we always talk about it on this show. Carter Bryant is like one of those like young fawns in the field that you can just tell has so much potential, but he's just very young and he's getting there. But when he gets there, it's going to be a real problem. Brian, I feel like I'm watching like a 13-year-old that I know in 3 years is going to be an NBA All-Star or something. You could just see he just oozes potential, and he also oozes youthfulness.
Yeah. No, I love watching Carter play. He's just a tremendous young man. And, one thing off the court, getting to sit and talk to these guys, they're all very intelligent, well-spoken. But sometimes when a freshman comes in, you don't expect a lot in terms of their communication abilities because, they're thrown into as they say, the frying pan, and maybe they're not being used to getting interviewed, etc. But Carter is very well-spoken, very thoughtful. Did you know that he's writing a book, for example?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's it about? What kind of genre do you know?
Well, I think it's more about life than it is basketball. And so I can't remember if he told me how many chapters. It's a ways away, but he's been working on it for quite a while. And again, that just tells you a little bit about a guy like Carter, that,
yes.
That's something that he's interested in doing. It's not all basketball. And so you're right. I mean, he's got incredible potential. He's hit some cold-blooded shots late in games here. Even down in Waco, the 2 free throws late, in that atmosphere. Tells you a lot about the freshman and the moxie that he's got right now and the confidence that he continues to grow.
Yeah, he reminded me. It was kind of like Michael Bibby. It was kind of like Mike Bibby just walking up against Kansas. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I've been here before. I would be terrified in those situations, Brian. Yeah. I don't even think that I would hit the rim, or I would try to do something where I'm banking it off the glass or something. But that's also why I am not a Division I athlete. I know there's a lot of confusion going around Tucson that I was a Division I athlete. Brian, I've got to nip that in the bud. I'm not. Just not.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and if you'd like, add that to our broadcast each week. I could do like a little live liner saying, "Hey, fans, just a reminder, Mike Luke was not a professional athlete."
Yeah, all right. I mean, I think that's something that we need to clarify for the fans. Okay. But yes, Bear Down Cats 96 says, "I would put money on you, Mike." Oh no. And passing gas was a DVD. Oh no, I didn't need to read that. Okay, now, all right, Brian. Let me ask you this though. Now look at the perimeter here. Well, the one thing I'm wrong on most things, but the one thing that I was right about was that this team, I think on the perimeter especially, was built for the Big 12. It's a tough team, period, across the board. Jaden Bradley, Caleb Love, KJ Lewis, these are tough guys, and KJ especially just has a Big 12 feel to him. He just feels like somebody that Houston has like 13 of each season.
Yeah, you've got to have that toughness. And again, that was something we knew going into the Big 12 because that's the reputation of the league. And if you don't play that way, you're not going to win many games. And so you're right, Mike. I mean, all 3 of those guys you mentioned, I think, have matched every team that they played in terms of toughness. And so you got to keep it going. That's it, because you're going to run into some, more situations just like that. And I think it helps you get prepared for the NCAA tournament as well. Right. And it goes, and this isn't directly related to that, Mike, but it is, and that is the foul situation. These games are called a lot differently in the Big 12. There's a lot more physical contact that's allowed than was in the Pac-12, and I think all that does is make a team better for the NCAA tournament, because when you get into that event, as you well know, They don't want, subconsciously, nobody wants a player to foul out in any of those games. I mean, that's what's special about the NCAA tournament is you want teams to be at full strength. And
Yeah, you want it. Yeah.
I don't think it's talked about. I mean, I don't think the referees get together and say, hey, let's not call fouls. But hey, all you have to do is look at the history, and it doesn't happen. So all this does, playing in the Big 12, is get a team like Arizona better prepared for the NCAA and how those games are going to be officiated.
Yeah, for sure. And let me ask you this, Brian. We got to address the elephant in the room. Arizona Primary Eye Care, my friend. Arizona Primary Eye Care. Now, you might say, Mike Luke, you look a little bit better than normal. Guess why? Hey, guess what these glasses are that I got for free from Arizona Primary Eye Care, Brian? Guess what they are?
They are glasses.
Tom Ford's.
Oh, Tom Ford. Oh, I see your designer now.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And so they told me, they said, listen, if we're going to partner with you, you have to look better on the air. And that's an impossible task. But there is at least a start here. These Tom Ford ones, I feel very cool. What do you got there, Brian? Do you got?
Oh, I don't have Tom Ford's, but I thought if we're going to wear glasses, I'll put something on here.
Oh, no. Yeah. Hey, you look like Dana Cooper right now. No, you do look like Dana Cooper. Yeah, keep them on. But anyway, check this out at Arizona Primary Eye Care. They can get cool stuff like the GOAT should have. Or if you're like me and you're like one of those measly people, then they can still make you look cool. Fill them up, though. We got to get 4. They got 4 locations, one in Douglas even. Fill it up. Get in there. Everybody check it out. 60+ insurances accepted. Arizona Primary Eye Care. Very much appreciate them. They just hopped on board last week. And Green Valley Decorative Rock. Now, Brian, there is a scurrilous rumor going around about Green Valley Decorative Rock that you might have heard.
Well, I was out of town last week, so I probably missed it.
There is a rumor going around that they are just in Green Valley. Can you believe it? They're in Tucson as well. We are not going to stand for this. It is going around, and we will not allow it. There is one in Tucson as well. By the way, you want to hear my Sean Connery impression?
Yes, please.
Welcome to the Rock.
Okay.
Brian, hey, can I hear your Sean Connery impression?
No chance.
All right, well, either way, shaken, not stirred. Okay, either way, Green Valley Decorative Rock, they can get all kinds of stuff. And here's the deal, Brian. They deliver up to Oracle, down to Nogales, east to Sierra Vista Benson, and west to Marana. They won't deliver to Alcatraz, most likely, unless, if you want to pay them, and then they'll take rock over to Alcatraz. Welcome to the Rock. Anyways, Green Valley Decorative Rock, they are in Tucson. We need people to know about this. Okay, now, Jaden Bradley. Let me ask you this, Jane Bradley. Let me ask you this, Brian Jeffries. Brian Jeffries, Jaden Bradley, kind of sounds the same. Jaden Bradley's awesome. My concern is just with him, man, he's got to play so much. And, Kevin O'Neill used to always say, well, these kids are 20 years old. They can play 38 minutes per game. We've done it before. What are you, as far as Jaden Bradley goes, what are you looking for the rest of the season? And is that a legit concern?
Well, I think it's always a concern. He's played 37 minutes a game in conference play, and I've never done that, so I couldn't tell you. I know watching him up close on the court, he doesn't look tired.
Right.
And so that's part of it right there. Now, he won't admit if he is probably. I thought the last couple of games, Tommy has tried to give him, a couple extra minutes rest late in the first half of those games. And, of course, he got in foul trouble at Baylor and had to sit for, probably longer than he has in the conference season so far. So I'm going to trust him and his conditioning that he can handle it. And a lot of coaches have said this, not about him, but about players that put in a lot of minutes that, when the game's on the line, you're going to find another gear. And,
right.
And that's all there is to it. So I'm not going to – I think they would love to be able to give him, a couple minutes here and there that they haven't been able to. And maybe that's in the cards. We'll see. I think the next couple of weeks are going to help. You play Monday, then, we're home – early Tuesday morning, middle of the night, whatever. And you don't play again until Saturday. So you got a little break there. And then you don't have to leave right away because then you got a home game the following Wednesday. So again, you don't leave again until the following Friday. I said, this is a stretch here for guys like Jaden that are playing a lot of minutes. I think it can really help because then you get into the stretch drive, if we're not already there, when you're going to be more rested and ready to roll.
All right, Caleb Love. He's a lightning rod for this fan base. I get beat up a lot because everyone's like, you give Caleb Love too much love. I like Caleb Love for a couple reasons. First of all, he's a really good kid. The coaching staff loves him. His team loves him. He plays hard. And Brian, I do like something else that I've seen about Caleb. Now, at this stage in the game, I think it's probably fair to say he's not going to put together 6 great shooting performances. But you know what he's doing? He's getting to the rim. A guy like that, when he gets to the rim, he can do so much more. It's not like it's a Mike Luke where you just got to stand there and just shoot an open three. He was blessed with a lot of gifts. I mean, you even saw the left-handed runner that he had against Houston, or the Magic Johnson hook across. I love Caleb Love when he attacks the basket, and he's very good at it.
Well, I agree. I think he's very good at it. And, maybe consciously that's something he's tried to do more. Because the 3-point percentages aren't what they were a year ago. And you can say that about this entire team. And so you got to find other ways. And so I think it also helps Caleb in another aspect, and that is the fact that, teams have to be prepared now for a guy that can drive the ball like that. And he's strong. You saw his poster dunk down at Baylor. I mean, he can go over the top of people. And
right.
so
yeah.
I think that helps his game because it keeps defenses honest now. Yeah, he's still a threat to shoot threes. He's not going to just stop doing it because that's part of his game.
Right.
And I don't think Tommy Lloyd's going to tell him to stop doing it. I mean, you hope that percentage just goes up, and here for the rest of the season that he's got more success going that way. But being able to get inside the 3-point line and create shots, and either it's a mid-range jumper or into the paint, like you described there on a couple of baskets, I think that's very important for him. And really for the team's success.
And the team feeds off him, too. When he makes some of those buckets, everybody just kind of around, he's just kind of got an uplifting factor to him that, like I said, I mean, he's far from perfect. I get all that. But he's definitely somebody that I'm glad that we have on the basketball team. Let me ask you this, Brian. ADO. A lot of people, ADO is an interesting one for me. I like ADO. I have a soft spot for ADO. ADO, though, defensively, I know it's a work in progress. How about that? But offensively, Brian, he can do more than just shoot the ball. He can finish around the hoop. He was fairly good on he's fairly good in transition as well. I like ADO.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason he's in the starting lineup, because look at Arizona's record since he got into the starting lineup.
Right.
I think the coaches want him to shoot more.
Right.
I was at a practice here a week or so ago, and that was one of the things I heard Tommy telling him over and over again: catch and shoot, catch and shoot. That's where he is Arizona's best 3-point threat. And so you want him to find an open spot and take those shots. I think his defense is getting better. And I think he's learning that the 3-point shot is not his only one. I mean, look at his game at Baylor. I mean, he made 1 3, his other 8 points. I can't remember if he shot any free throws, but I think they were all field goals. So 4 field goals maybe from 2-point range. And so, again, just kind of like Caleb, making defenses honest, where, he's not just capable of shooting a 3, but he can take you to the bucket. So, yeah, I like he's a great guy, great kid. And, again, Arizona's winning with him in the lineup. And so you don't back away from that.
All right, Brian, I get this question asked basically I actually know the answer to this because I've asked you this probably 500 times on and off record, but I get this every show, so I feel that we need to spend a couple minutes on this. Who are guys that you looked up to in the broadcasting industry? I get that question all the time. Ray Scott. I will start off with Ray Scott. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's that. If you're starting top down, yes, you start with Ray Scott. And right. I have to remind people who he was, because I talked to somebody the other day, a gentleman who's in his 40s who had no idea who Ray Scott was. So I need to repeat that. Ray was the voice of the Green Bay Packers during the Lombardi era, when Bart Starr, NFL championships, etc. He went on and worked for CBS television, did Super Bowls. He did baseball. He did it all. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And Ray retired to Tucson back, that would have been in the probably early to mid 80s, but nobody knew that he was here.
Right.
And then somebody found out that, Ray Scott's living in Tucson out on the east side. And and Arizona was going through some tough times with their play-by-play people. I think they'd gone through 3 in about 5 years at that point. And so they talked him, the general manager at the radio station that had the radio rights at the time, talked him into, hey, Ray, this is all we need you to do is football and basketball, nothing else. And he agreed to do it. And so I had a chance to work with him for 2 years.
How did that now? How did that come about? Tell people how that came about.
How he got hired?
Well, no, how you got here and then started working under him for a couple.
Well,
years.
I was already working here, and
right.
I was doing like the sideline reports for football, pregame, postgame for basketball. So I had been here for 4 or 5 years when they found, discovered he was here. So I got to work with him for 2 years. I was the analyst for the basketball games because they needed somebody to carry the equipment. So I did that. I had no business being an analyst, but I did. And those 2 years with Ray, I learned more than I can ever imagine, or I can't even describe what that was like. I mean, not only did he teach me things that I didn't know, but he introduced me to a lot of people because he knew everybody in the industry.
Right.
And he knew, a lot of athletes. And so those 2 years traveling with him was tremendous. And probably the best lesson that he ever told me was that nobody's perfect.
Right.
And, I was doing high school games and et cetera. And I told him one day, I remember telling Ray, I said, Ray, I go back and listen to the tape of the game and I keep making mistakes. And he got mad at me in his voice, Brian, I've been in this business for 75 years and I have never called a perfect game and neither will you. And what he meant by that was that, you can't do live sports and be perfect. It just, that's the nature. You learn how to adapt and not to, you have to correct your mistakes and you go on from there.
Right.
And that totally changed my perspective because okay, well, maybe I can do this if I just don't worry about, every little thing. He taught me a lot of other things other than that. But so those 2 years. And then when he decided to retire again, he made sure that the university understood that, you should give Brian a shot at this. And so I was forever indebted.
Yeah. Now, how, just around, on the national scene, is there anybody that you've taken a little bit more from others, things like that?
Well, guys, growing up, I grew up in the Seattle area. And so, Pete Gross was the voice of the Seahawks. Bob Blackburn was the voice of the Sonics. And I listened to those guys a lot. And one of my favorites always was Bob Robertson, who was the longtime voice of Washington State.
Right.
And it turned out that he lived 2 miles from where I grew up. And now I didn't know this. That's another just, minor inconsequential inside story is that I was talking to, I was in junior high school, I think. And a buddy of mine, we were talking about what do we want to do when we grow up, right? And I said, I'd like to, be a play-by-play announcer. I'd like to be like Bob Robertson because I got to listen to him. And he goes, oh, well, he's my next door neighbor. And I said, what? And so I rode my bike over to Richard's house every day after school, hoping that Bob Robertson would pull into the driveway because I was too shy to go knock on the door or anything.
Right.
And sure enough, then the day occurred when I was there and he pulled into his driveway and I got to meet him. It turned out then we became friends forever.
Right.
And he gave me great advice. We always talked. When he would come to Tucson with the Cougars, I'd usually give him a ride back to the hotel or whatever. And he just became
Was it kind of surreal commentating games? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, guy had grown up listening to. So, those are some of the people. I still, I love listening to guys in other markets because, you pick up on things and we share ideas. One thing about the Big 12 is that, we have a group chat amongst all the play-by-play announcers, and I still haven't met everybody yet,
right?
But they're all great guys, and we share stories, and we're going to try and get together in Kansas City and have dinner together, and so it's that helps a lot when you have people that are want to support you and you support them, and it helps you get insights into other teams, and they're good guys.
Can we get Can we get some of the Brian Jeffries as an analyst tape? I would love to hear that.
It's probably somewhere. It's probably archived on some old reel-to-reel tapes somewhere. But I probably didn't do much, Mike, other than, yeah, that was a great shot.
Yeah, good shot. It just went in the basket. Here they come on down the court. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of football as well. But first, got to pay some bills here. RJ's Frozen Cactus. Now, you might say, Mike, where's RJ's Frozen Cactus? It is Midtown area. Look at this cool photo right here. Now, it's also on Bar Rescue. Here's the deal. You can ride share to the games, and you can drink a lot there or whatever, and then leave your car, and then go to the games, and then you can watch the GOAT and watch the game at the same time. 100-plus craft beers, my friend. $2 deals, pizza, wings, tacos, burgers, and more. No bad seats in the house. No bad seats in the house. All right. Now, the great thing about it, too, is that, like I said, got all kinds of good stuff, and it's very, very affordable as well. Check it out. The RJ's Frozen Cactus and Essential Pest Solutions. Now, you might say, Mike Luke, you're a pest. True. But
Mike, that's Signature Pest Solutions.
Or Signature Pest Solutions. Excuse me. I'm still getting all of these right. Yeah, sorry. Signature Pest Solutions. I do apologize. Either way, you got to choose them. AZ12 for 100% off termite treatment or $50 off pest control, bed bug elimination, weed control, rodent control, termite treatment, everything. Check it out. 520-392-4360. Get free estimates, and you got to use AZ12. Make us look better. Make us look better. Signature Pest Solutions, my friends. Okay. Now, Brian, if Arizona, we have a deal here before we get to a little bit of football. If Arizona's in Seattle, we're going out for seafood in that first round tournament game. This is true.
This is true. Yes, you're on, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we don't have any power to get the Wildcats to Seattle for a first and second round game, but that would be kind of cool just because we know the city so well. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope that happens, Mike.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, Brian, I want to talk a little bit about we'll move over to a little bit of U of A football here. My big thing that I like when I look at coaches is how do you adjust, because nobody's perfect. I get all of that. What I like what this coaching staff has done, we'll talk a little bit about the offseason, is I love the fact that they are out there in the community where the coaches are out there. You're bringing back your Joe Salaveas. This is something that I'm happy that they did because Tucson, and you can speak to this better than anybody, Tucson is a relationship city. People want to feel like they're engaged because so much revolves around Arizona. I'm glad they're doing that, Brian. I think it's a great idea.
No, I agree with you, Mike. And, I think I love Coach Brennan. I'm hoping for the best for him. I think he's done what he needed to do during the offseason. He saw what, he had last year. He knew he had to make some changes, both coaching and personnel-wise, and they've done exactly that. And, the good news is in these days of the transfer portal now that you can totally remake your team in one off season. And he's been able to do that. Now, of course, the proof in the pudding, as the old cliche goes, and you'll hope all those guys can play as well as their stats at other schools show, and they can make Arizona an even better football team coming up this fall. And I love the upgrades and the coaching staff as well. And so I'm rooting for Coach Brennan. I think he's a good coach. We know that. Okay, he's a good coach. If you can win at San Jose State, you can win anywhere. That's the bottom line. And so, I know it was a tough season last year. Anytime you lose more than you win, it's difficult. And I think in particular when you're a new coach and you had to follow a 10-win season and come in and things just didn't fall together the way they had the year before. So I think that they're set. I hope that they're set. And they don't have to go and win every game, but I think they're going to be very competitive, and you hope they can get to a bowl game and go from there.
Where do you rank amongst players that you've called? I would assume that T-Mac is one of the better players that you've watched here at the University of Arizona. Brian, am I going out on a limb there?
Well, certainly probably the best wide receiver that I've ever seen in an Arizona uniform. One of the best overall players, but just in terms of his ability to get open, I'm going to be shocked if he's not, an NFL All-Pro here in very short time because, just his God-given physical abilities and just his I call it his awareness on the field, I think is as good as you can find.
Brian, who's taller, him or you?
We're probably pretty close. They listed him at 6'4". Is that right? Or 6'5"?
6'4", 6'5", something like
they
that.
listed him at 6'5".
Right.
And we'll see what happens when the NFL, the NFL measures those guys without shoes. And, we'll see exactly. Yeah. But he's got to be, I'm going to guess, barefoot, at least 6'4".
Brian Jeffries, 6'5" without shoes?
6'4.5" without shoes.
Oh. Did you tell people you were 6'4" or
6'5"? Well, it depends when you asked. So
that's fair enough. Yeah.
I think I just said 6'5" because I had shoes on, and I didn't have to argue with anybody.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I get that. All right. Now, looking at the receiver room, the reason I brought up T-Mac is you obviously lose T-Mac, but I'm intrigued, to be honest with you. You've got a number of guys that are coming in. Maybe nobody's going to be T-Mac. You're not just going to replace T-Mac when we had Brennan on the show. But if you can have 4 or 5 guys that have spread out 500 to 700 yards, that is at least something that you can work with. Whereas last year, until Chris Hunter kind of came on at the end of the season, it was basically T-Mac. We're just throwing it to T-Mac, and then there wasn't a ton else there. I think when you look around at this receiving room, there is a little bit more to there's a little bit more to work with across the board.
Yeah, I agree. And you go back to the season before, you had Jacob Cowing, who kind of the counter to T-Mac. You had an outstanding tight end. I mean, you take a look at the guys they lost from that team, and the fact that you got a tight end playing in the NFL, you got a wide receiver playing in the NFL, you got an offensive lineman playing in the NFL. And when you lose that type of talent, and so, they just, like you said, until Hunter kind of emerged there, they didn't have that counterbalance to T-Mac. And so I kind of like I'm going to look at it from the positive view and join you, Mike, in saying that when you have more equal parts, that, defenses can't concentrate on that one guy. So there's no T-Mac to double team now.
Right.
And so it sets up the other guys there for more success. So I'm going to look at it that way.
All right. Well, we had Seth Daggy on, and he said, what I like about this is getting another set of eyes on the quarterback. And I thought, he was honest. He said, listen, I know that Noah Fafita is a really good football player. There's enough tape of Noah Fafita being really good to know. And I was like, so what do you need to do? And he said, well, first, just looking at it last year, we got to get his feet right. There were too many times that his feet weren't right. He was just backing up. And I'm interested. I'm intrigued by that, Brian, just to have another set of eyes there to be able to say, okay, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that. But you could tell that the new OC is definitely excited to work with him. And I think it's going to pay dividends. I really do.
Well, there's no doubt, Noah's extremely talented. I think, again, you go back a season and, teams really didn't have any film on him right away. And even when they did, I don't think they ever were able to adjust. I think last year teams did a lot more scheming against him. But I also, and you've probably heard this from Lamont Lovett, that Noah just didn't get rid of the ball quick enough. I mean, that is a real key for him, I think, is to be able to, within a couple of seconds know where that ball is going. And maybe it goes back again, and coach would know better than me, certainly, that part of it's your footwork, that you get your feet set, and then you have more success finding your target and making an accurate throw.
All right. Now, if you're when you go on the when you went to the road in that UCF game, I know there was somebody there that was looking forward to seeing you. I don't think that he ended up seeing you though at that during that time, but he sends his well wishes though.
Thank you.
Yes, very, very impressive. Okay, now defensively though, you got Danny Gonzalez in, and Dwayne Aquina is in here. Dwayne Aquina is in there as well. I like the staff. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens with the secondary and everything. But I like the, I like the staff. I like the coaches back there. I'm excited to see how that one works out too, Brian. I am reserving judgment. How about that?
Well, I think depth is the key issue, and that's the thing that haunted him last season. Yeah, just too many injuries. And you didn't have guys with enough experience behind them to fill those holes. Right. And so that's one thing they addressed during the offseason in the portal, and just bringing in some young guys as well, that you've got to build more depth there because injuries happen, and that's all there is to it. Unfortunately for Arizona, you lost maybe your three best defensive players
Right.
for the season, and you can't make up for that. So hopefully, that depth again pays off. I will say this about Danny Gonzalez. If you look in the dictionary under defensive coaches, his picture is probably there because that's
Yeah.
just the type of guy he is. I remember the first time I talked to him, I was like, wow, this guy is a football coach. I mean,
Yeah.
so again, I think that Coach Brennan has made some good movement there in terms of the staff. I think he's got the right people in place now, and let's hope for the best.
Yeah. All right. Now, Brian, we got a few more minutes left. We got to pay some more bills here. All right. Long view. Okay. Now you might be like the GOAT and be very, very successful in life. And you're like, I got to figure out what my next move is. Longview Insurance and Investments. Now might say, Mike Luke, you don't need any of that because, well, true. But at the same time, though, they can do all kinds of good stuff. Personalized comprehensive financial planning, tailored retirement income strategies, distinctive wealth management solutions, highly certified with top designations, certified financial planners, retirement income certified professional. Check it out at Longview Insurance and Investments, a trusted partner for your future. Then we've also got the Rubin Group at Swift Mortgage. Okay, here's the deal. You got the Lighthouse. We got the Lighthouse program going on right now. But also with Mike, he can help buy, sell, and refinance. He's local, support local, obviously. And the great thing about the Lighthouse is the Pima County Lighthouse Down Payment Assistance Program is being released in March, and funds are limited. That means you want to get pre-qualified now ahead of the release date. Apply the QR code to see if you're eligible. You can get 4% assistance and a below-market interest rate. All right, scan the QR code or apply and see if you're eligible. Special code Salim. Again, use code Salim Stodmeyer for $500 off closing costs. Okay, Brian, couple minutes left here. What's Brody Dryden? Are we going to be getting some more Brody Dryden this year? We like Brody Dryden helping the GOAT out.
He is radio wise. I hope
excellent.
I use him for some baseball coming up here in the spring. He is doing the Arizona stream this weekend, the baseball stream this weekend from High Corbett Field, and so he's trying to stay as busy as he can. He does have a real job that keeps him going Monday through Friday.
He's having to do the real stuff too. All right,
I know.
Fine.
Somehow you got to pay the bills. So
right.
But
okay, we're going to be hearing more though, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, Brian, you are the absolute man. We very much appreciate you hopping on here, and yes, you will be hearing from me. And again, seafood on me. Well, it's going to be either in Seattle or Denver, so we'll figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm going to say no seafood in Denver, please.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Unless
well,
it's
have you ever had seafood in Denver?
I've had seafood in Colorado. I've actually caught seafood in Colorado.
I think you sent me is that where you sent me the picture of it when you were actually catching seafood?
Few and far between, but yes, I've caught a couple of trout.
Interesting. All right. All right. We like that, Brian. You are the man. All right, the GOAT. We're privileged to have you as always. Brian Jeffries, thank you very much, my friend.
Hey, Mike. Anytime. Thanks. Good to see you.
Appreciate it. All right. Now you've been listening to the AZ12 podcast with the GOAT. I am merely Mike Luke. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 10:30.